Since both my parents were working full-time, I attended daycare from a young age and grew up watching my parents work hard every day. My childhood dream was to become a successful career woman. I wanted to be an independent woman who could stand on her own without relying on anyone else. Because of that dream and my strong personality, I was very competitive as a child. If I fell during a race in PE class, I'd get back up without crying, determined not to lose. If I didn't score in the top of my class on a test, I'd stay up late studying until I got better results. I had a fierce determination that I would never lose.
You don't always have to be number one, Sarah. We just want you to shine as yourself. We're proud of how hard you work, but remember it's important to learn on your family too. We're here to support you.
I entered a prestigious high school known for its high academic standards, and I passed the entrance exam with top scores. It was in this high school that I met my future husband, Mark. Mark had the highest grades in the entrance exam and gave the freshman speech at the opening ceremony.
I've always worked hard and never feared failure. It's okay not to be number one. I believe failure is an important experience.
I still remember how deeply Mark's words resonated with me because my dad used to say similar things to me. I felt an instant connection with Mark when I first heard him speak. Mark and I were in the same advanced class, which was full of the top students in the school. Even in such a competitive environment, Mark was always at the top. As we grew closer, he told me stories from his childhood and school days.
I've never placed second in sports or academics. My mom was pretty strict, but I'm grateful because it made me capable of handling almost anything.
I met Mark's mom at the entrance ceremony. She was wearing an expensive-looking outfit and seemed like a strong woman. Given how successful Mark was, I understood why his mom might have been strict. We spent all 3 years of high school in the same class. Mark excelled in everything. He was a class leader, the anchor for our class's relay team, the conductor for our choir competition, and he always topped the class in exams. He was tall, had a good build, and while he wasn't drop-dead gorgeous, he was very handsome. I admired him deeply and had a bit of a crush, but I never acted on it. He felt too out of reach for me to even consider confessing my feelings. After high school, I still admired Mark and worked hard in my studies and job search to keep up with him. Even after facing multiple rejections, I never gave up. Eventually, I landed a job at a top company, which was my 5th choice, and took my first step toward my childhood dream of becoming a career woman. Being hired for a general position as a woman was rare at that time, and the job was intense and very busy. I traveled all over the country, running around in heels I wasn't used to, and became financially and emotionally independent. Although I occasionally exchanged emails with my parents, I tried not to rely on them much because I didn't want to worry them, especially since they were getting older. Every day was about work, work, work. It was the life I had always wanted, but seeing my friends getting married and having kids on social media sometimes made me feel unsettled. As I approached 30, I received an invitation to my high school reunion. Although I had been prioritizing work and had almost no social life, I decided to attend. On the day of the reunion, it was amazing to see how much everyone had changed, yet stayed the same. While catching up with old friends, I heard a familiar voice.
Sarah, is that you? Wow, you look amazing.
Mark, it's been so long. You haven't aged at all. That was how I reunited with Mark. He seemed a bit more laid back than I remembered, but that wasn't surprising after more than a decade. He was still tall, and the suit he was wearing fit him perfectly. Mark told me he was working as a top salesman at a large multinational company, which had been my dream company.
I just won first place in the company's young sales division. They even held an award ceremony for me.
Mark was still the same person I admired in high school, an elite. I told him how I was working hard at my company, and we had a great time catching up. We quickly grew closer after that night, and it wasn't long before we started dating. Both of us were busy with work, so we couldn't spend much time together, but I was very happy. I started to think that maybe I should focus more on my personal life and not just work. Maybe I should consider creating a home and a family, like my friends were doing. These thoughts kept crossing my mind. On our 1-year anniversary, Mark proposed and I said yes. After more than 10 years, we were finally getting married. Getting married at 30 felt like a milestone, and I was overjoyed. But I also had concerns. I was traveling all over the country for work, so I had to decide whether to request a transfer, keep my current job, or even consider a career change. Mark knew how much I loved my job, so I trusted that he would support whatever decision I made. With mixed feelings, I went to meet Mark's mom, Amy. Mark's father had passed away a few years ago, so it was just Amy, who had always seemed strict. She was even thinner and more stern-looking than I remembered.
So, you're Sarah. I hear you were classmates with Mark in high school. Graduating from that school means you must be pretty smart.
I'm not sure about smart, but I work hard at a large company in a position that's not usually held by women. I'm currently leading a major project. As I nervously continued to explain myself, Amy suddenly smiled and said,
That's enough. I can see you're very capable.
I felt relieved, thinking I had earned her approval.
But I don't need a career woman. A woman's job is to take care of the home, to send her husband off with a smile, have a warm meal ready when he comes home, and raise the children properly. And that's what I did, and that's what I expect from you.
I was shocked because Mark had never mentioned any of this.
She's right. I'll make the money, and you just need to stay home. There's no need to push yourself to work.
Although being a successful, independent woman was my childhood dream, I couldn't deny that I was physically and mentally exhausted from the demands of my job.
A woman's happiness is in supporting her husband. If you keep working, people might think Mark can't support his family.
As I looked at Mark, he just nodded in agreement with his mom. I thought that times had changed and that people didn't see working wives as a sign of a weak husband anymore. But apparently, I was wrong. But I'm not very good at housework. I've focused on my career, so I might need some help.
That's concerning, but I can teach you. After all, we'll be living together.
Living together? Mark never mentioned that.
Yes, this house is too big for me alone. There's plenty of space for you, Mark, and any future grandkids. Why waste money on a separate home?
I was overwhelmed by her opinions and felt paralyzed. Just as I was struggling with what to do, Mark's next words made my decision.
I'm not the kind of guy who needs his wife to work. I make more than enough to support us. Besides, you're so talented that if you ever want to go back to work, I'm sure you'll find something quickly.
I didn't feel bad hearing that. He was right. I could go back to work anytime I wanted. So I decided to try being a stay-at-home wife, as they suggested. Although I had some doubts, I decided to resign from my job. My colleagues tried to convince me to stay, but they also told me to come back anytime if I changed my mind. With that encouragement, I left the company. I spent the next few months learning from Amy. She was strict, but after years of working in a tough, male-dominated environment, it didn't bother me much. Not long after, I found out I was pregnant. I gave birth to our daughter, Lily. Mark was overjoyed, and surprisingly, Amy doted on Lily as well.
Lily is just the cutest, isn't she?
Seeing her love for Lily was heartwarming, but at the same time, her demands on me increased.
I'll take care of Lily. You focus on the housework. We're running low on some household items, so could you do the shopping?
I dragged my postpartum body around, doing all the housework. Still, it was helpful that Amy took care of Lily while Mark was busy with work. Mark was rarely home, so I appreciated the help, even if it came with a lot of demands. But Amy only doted on Lily and Mark. She always made sure Lily had the best of everything, from food to clothes. I never knew how much money she had from her late husband, but she was always generous with Lily. She never bought anything for me, but I didn't mind. Mark was more focused on his work than ever, rising quickly through the ranks as an elite employee. He had never faced any significant failures or setbacks in his life, so he wasn't prepared for what happened next. One day, when Lily was in upper elementary school, Mark came home looking pale and exhausted, like I'd never seen before. "Mark, what's wrong?" Mark slumped into a chair and spoke in a defeated voice.
It's over. I made a huge mistake at work. The client was furious. My boss berated me, and even my juniors looked at me with pity. I couldn't take it, so I quit.
I was in shock and raised my voice. "You quit? Why would you do that over one mistake? Lily's about to start private middle school, which is going to be expensive." We had just paid for Lily's entrance exam, and now, when we needed the money the most, Mark had quit his job. Even Amy, who was usually unflappable, was shocked and looked distressed. "Can't you go back and tell them you made a mistake?"
No way. I can't show my face there again. Everyone thinks I'm a failure. I'm sure no one will ever hire me again.
Mark had never experienced failure before, and now he was completely unraveling. He locked himself in his room, and I was at a loss for what to do.
"Sarah, you need to go out and work."
"Wait, but you always said a woman's job is to stay home. We still have savings, so let's not rush into anything."
"The inheritance is gone. Mark has probably used up most of your savings, too."
I had been managing the household with the money Mark gave me, but he handled our finances, so I had no idea we were in such a bad situation. I was shocked, but had no time to dwell on it. "I'll find a job, but I'll need you to take care of the house." I had been out of the workforce for years, but I still had my career experience and determination. I was lucky to get rehired by my old company, and I quickly returned to being a career woman. It was overwhelming to suddenly become the breadwinner, but our lives soon stabilized. Although we couldn't live extravagantly, I was able to send Lily to private school and take care of Amy and Mark. Mark would watch me working hard with a bitter expression, but never said anything. I wanted to tell him to pick himself up and start over, but I held back and focused on supporting my family. Amy seemed a bit uncomfortable at first, but she soon returned to her old self, showing little gratitude and only worrying about Mark's well-being. I encouraged Mark to look for a new job several times, but he would just say,
"You don't need me. You're a super career woman after all."
Amy would then say,
"He's still recovering. Let him rest."
Mark started taking money from our account and wandering outside. Looking back, I realized I should have left or confronted him, but I couldn't bring myself to abandon the man who had once provided for me. I continued working hard while Mark spent his days and nights aimlessly. Lily watched her father with a mixture of sadness and disgust, and Mark seemed to sense it too. The atmosphere at home became unbearable. When Lily was in middle school, Mark finally disappeared from our lives.
"You'll be fine without me. I'm going to live with a woman who needs me."
He left a note saying that, and I couldn't believe it. Amy cried out,
"It's your fault. You drove him away. I never want to see you or Lily again."
She tried to kick us out of the house. "Wait, how will you live without me? I handle all the finances."
"Don't underestimate me. I don't need you. I can take care of myself."
And so Lily and I left the house. Lily was old enough to take care of herself by then, and I focused on work while she helped with household chores. We were busy, but we were happy. As for my marriage to Mark, I hadn't filed for divorce because I didn't know where he was. I knew I could get a divorce after a certain period of time had passed, but it seemed complicated, so I left it alone. 10 years flew by. I was able to send Lily to private high school and university, and I was finally able to relax. Mark had left us when Lily was just a child, but I managed to raise her on my own, and I felt a sense of peace and satisfaction. Lily was now 25 and had started her career as a successful woman, just like I had been in my younger days. I was dating a man named Tom, and we were living together in a small but cozy house. Lily knew Tom, and she would visit us from time to time, making our home feel complete. Then one day, I received a phone call from an unknown number. Since I get a lot of calls for work, I answered without thinking much of it. To my surprise, it was Mark.
"Sarah, I had a hard time finding your number since you changed it."
"Mark? What's going on?" You left us and now you suddenly want to talk? My heart was racing as I struggled to process what was happening.
I'm in trouble. Please, help me. We're still family, right? It's your duty to help your husband in times of need.
What do you mean, help? You disappeared for 10 years. How dare you call me after all this time?
Where are you? I took care of you for so long. Don't you feel any obligation to help me out? I'll find you no matter what.
Stop it. You're not making any sense. I'm hanging up now. I hung up and stared at my phone, my heart still pounding. I couldn't believe he had the nerve to contact me after all these years. I didn't even tell Tom about the call. I just tried to put it out of my mind. But a few days later, when I came home from work, I saw shadows near my front door. It was unusual for me to be home early, so I quietly approached, worried it might be an intruder. But when I got closer, I realized it was Mark and Amy.
Finally, you're home. Do you know how long we've been waiting? I'm begging you. We've had our issues, but we're still family, right?
Please, we need your help. We're family after all.
Mark had aged significantly, and Amy no longer looked like the well-put-together woman I once knew. What are you talking about? Please leave. I tried to push them away, but they weren't giving up easily.
After I left, I moved in with a woman named Emily. She's different from you. She really needs me. But I messed up and ran out of money.
I listened, my brow furrowing as I took a step back. Apparently Mark had met this younger woman named Emily after he quit his job. He was a part-time worker who always seemed to be struggling financially, and she relied on Mark to provide for her. Emily boosted Mark's ego, making him feel needed, something he hadn't felt in a long time.
I told Emily I was a business owner to impress her, but I was just working for a construction company. The owner, Mr. Stone, treated me well, but the pay was low. I had to borrow money from him just to keep up appearances for Emily.
And your mom? What's she been doing all this time? I asked Amy, who looked smaller than ever.
I found out where Mark was and moved in with him. When Emily came over, I stayed in a nearby park.
Hearing how pitiful her life had become, I couldn't even look her in the eye.
Now I'm drowning in debt. I quit my job and I have no idea what to do next. We're still married, so we're family, right? Let's start over. You're making good money, aren't you?
As Mark continued his selfish monologue, I let out a deep sigh.
Mom, I'm home. Wait, what's going on here?
I had invited Lily over for dinner that night, not expecting to see Mark again after 10 years.
Lily? Oh, you've grown so much. You're starting to look like me. We're definitely family.
Stop it. We're not family anymore.
What are you talking about? Sarah and I are still married, so we're family. We have a duty to support each other.
What do you mean? I thought you got divorced years ago. Didn't Mom tell you?
As soon as Lily said that, Mark and Amy's faces turned pale.
What do you mean divorced? I didn't agree to that.
You disappeared for 10 years. After 7 years of no contact, you were legally declared dead. My partner is a lawyer, so he handled all the paperwork. If you'd returned a few years earlier, things might have been different. My partner Tom is an attorney. We met through work 3 years ago, and he helped me legally separate from Mark. Once we were legally free, Tom asked me to start a relationship with him.
You can't do that without my permission.
Of course I can. Tom is a professional. We're no longer married, so I have no obligation to help you. Mark bit his lip, clearly frustrated.
Oh, and one more thing. You're probably going to get sued by Mr. Stone soon.
Lily waved goodbye and went inside the house, clearly uninterested in staying around.
Why would Mr. Stone sue me? I borrowed money, but he said I didn't have to pay it back.
I smiled at Mark, who seemed genuinely confused. Oh, Mark, you really don't know anything, do you? Do you know Emily's last name?
She was just a part-timer and I never learned her last name.
Oh, you poor thing. You've been deceived for 10 years. Emily's last name is Stone. She's Mr. Stone's wife.
No way. That's impossible.
Oh, it's true. She knew you weren't a business owner. She knew you worked for her husband and took advantage of you for years. Mr. Stone didn't find out until recently. When I met with him for a new project, he mentioned his wife had been buying expensive things. He even joked about hiring a private investigator to find out where she was getting the money. The next week, he told me, looking utterly defeated, that it was worse than he'd imagined. It was you, Mark. When I finished telling Mark everything, his face turned ghostly white, and he started shaking.
No, that can't be true. She told me she was married, but unhappy. She said her husband was abusive and didn't give her any money. I can't believe I was deceived for 10 years.
Just then, Tom came home.
Well, this looks serious. If you get sued, you might want to hire a lawyer, but don't expect me to take your case. Now please, leave. This is private property.
Mark, leaning on his mother, slowly walked away, looking utterly defeated. I couldn't help but feel a small twinge of pity, but I knew this was the end. As expected, Mark was sued by Mr. Stone and faced serious consequences for his betrayal. Mr. Stone divorced Emily, and their lives were shattered because of Mark's actions. I felt terrible for Mr. Stone, whose life was ruined by my ex-husband. Tom and I had been planning to get married, but we decided to stay together without the legal paperwork. Marriage isn't the only way to be happy. I had always dreamed of being an independent woman, and even though the path wasn't easy, I finally achieved my dream. My daughter Lily had followed in my footsteps, working hard as a successful woman. I hope she never gives up on her dreams and finds someone who respects and loves her for who she is.